Things will never be the same after my sister said that. A seemingly harmless comment, yet it revealed a truth I've tried to keep hidden for years. The pain behind the money my husband possesses. I can't allow anyone, even family, to disrespect what he's been through. But am I going too far by demanding an apology from her? And will this incident forever break our family relationships? My husband lost both of his parents in an unavoidable accident when he was just 17 years old. The accident not only took the lives of his parents but also led to a major lawsuit, forcing our family to face many difficulties. What my husband received was not an easy sum of money. It was the result of a tremendous loss he had to endure. At the time, he was just a boy, too young to fully understand what was happening. But he had to face the pain of loss right in the midst of his youth, a loss that no one could replace. After the lawsuit was settled, he received a large sum of money as compensation for the damages his family suffered. But who could understand that, despite owning a large sum, my husband would never be able to fill the emptiness that loss had left in his heart? We met years after the lawsuit was settled, and his life gradually became stable. However, the old pain still lingered within him. He never wanted to flaunt his wealth or talk about the money he had. It wasn't that he didn't want to share, but because he always felt guilty for having it so easily, while others had suffered so much. He always told me that if he could, he would give up all that money just to have his parents back. With the money my husband had, our lives changed completely. We were able to live comfortably without worrying about finances. We could buy a home, take care of our children, and invest in our future. But we never forgot that this life came from the sacrifice of those my husband loved most. So, although we lived a comfortable and prosperous life, no one in our family ever boasted or took pride in what we had. No one in my family, not even my parents or my sister, knew exactly how much my husband had. They only knew that he had received money from a lawsuit after losing his parents, and they understood that it was a large sum. But everyone knew that my husband had never been able to rejoice over that money. It was the result of a pain that could never be replaced. They also understood that while he could easily share, he would never do so unless it was absolutely necessary. Our life may not be a fairy tale, but it is a journey full of challenges and sacrifices. And that is why I cannot accept when someone treats what we have as something to be taken for granted, or even worse, something they are entitled to. We got married after 4 years of dating. Our married life has been stable, but not always easy. My husband is a very intelligent person with a strong financial vision. He not only lives comfortably, but also knows how to invest in our future and our children's future, ensuring that everything remains sustainable. He always looks for ways to ensure that we are not just living well today, but have a secure future ahead. As for me, although I don't have as much wealth as he does, I also have a stable job. Both of us work hard and always appreciate what we have. However, one thing that people don't know is that my husband never takes his wealth for granted. Even though we have money, we live quite modestly. We don't spend recklessly. Instead, we focus on investing, saving, and helping family when needed. The values that my husband and I prioritize are family, stability, and fairness. While I love my family dearly, I also know that there are boundaries that cannot be crossed. I always try to keep my family happy and harmonious, but sometimes, unavoidable things happen. Things started to change when we had children. We now have 3 kids, and I have become increasingly aware of the importance of teaching them to appreciate what they have and understand that money isn't everything. With a stable family and a comfortable life, many people outside think that we have it all. But what they don't know is that my husband had to sacrifice so much to get to where he is. He's not the kind of person to flaunt his wealth, nor does he want people to think that his life is perfect, because behind that success is a great pain that no one can replace. My family, especially my parents and sister, knows about the death of my husband's parents, and they also understand that the lawsuit provided our family with a large sum of money. But they have no idea about the details of that money or how we've used it. I've never wanted to talk about money because I don't want to create comparisons or make anyone in the family feel lacking. Still, I realize that not everyone understands everything, and sometimes casual comments can unintentionally hurt others. We've had a very stable life and rarely face financial struggles. However, I also understand that not everyone in my family has the same life as we do. They don't fully understand the sacrifices and losses we've gone through. And because of this, I've come to realize that not everyone can view our lives from a positive perspective. One evening, we decided to invite my family over for dinner at our place. It was a rare occasion where we could all sit together, chat, and relax. My husband is always comfortable when family is around, though he never brings up much about himself. We prepared a simple dinner, nothing extravagant, but everything felt warm and cozy. At that moment, the family atmosphere was really enjoyable, and everyone was laughing and sharing about their lives and upcoming plans. My sister, who is always open and straightforward, started talking about her plans. She and her boyfriend were planning a weekend trip and discussing moving in together. She said the trip was very special for her because it marked a milestone in their relationship. Everyone happily joined in the conversation, asking about their plans. At that moment, everything felt normal, and I was proud that our family could sit together in such a cozy atmosphere. However, when my sister mentioned that they would need to save money for the trip, I felt a little uneasy. At that moment, my husband spoke up, mentioning that we had been to the place they were planning to visit and that it would be a fun trip. My husband always speaks simply and never makes anyone uncomfortable. He said that there was nothing extravagant about the place, just a simple getaway that anyone could enjoy. But then, out of nowhere, my sister said something that stunned me. She remarked that, unlike us, they wouldn't have the same money to spend, and she hesitated before adding, "It definitely won't be like what you guys can afford. You can easily pay for trips like these." My husband just smiled and said that we hadn't done anything fancy there. But my sister didn't stop there. She continued, "Well, at least you could offer to pay for our weekend trip since you can afford it." At that moment, the atmosphere became tense. I couldn't believe my ears when I heard that request. My husband remained calm, but I could sense his discomfort. He shook his head, replying that it was a big ask, but my sister didn't back down. "You could easily pay for a whole month for us if you wanted," she said, her eyes locking with his. I felt anger rise within me. How could she say something like that, especially knowing that my husband had to lose his parents to get the money he had? Our entire family understood that that money wasn't something he was happy to have. It came from a loss that no one could replace. And now, my sister was talking as if we could just easily pay for everything without a second thought. I couldn't just sit there and let her continue like that. Even though I knew she might not fully understand everything we'd been through, her comment was incredibly insensitive. I could feel my blood boiling, and I immediately spoke up. "You have no right to ask us to pay for your trip." The room immediately fell silent, with only the soft clinking of dishes filling the air. I could see my husband looking at me with surprise, a bit worried. But in my heart, I knew I had done the right thing. My sister had crossed a line, and I couldn't let it go on any longer. When I spoke up, the silence in the room became heavy, as if no one dared to say anything further. All eyes were on me and my sister. My husband looked at me, clearly surprised and a little worried. He hadn't expected me to react so strongly, but I felt it was necessary. My sister stared at me, her eyes seeming to not believe what I had just said. A few seconds passed before she finally spoke. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice tense. "I was just joking. Why are you making such a big deal out of it?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could she possibly think that was a joke? I looked at her firmly. "You don't get it, do you?" I replied, my tone less than gentle. "You can't say things like that without considering how it affects others, especially him who had to endure so much pain to get what he has. You have no right to ask him to do that." My sister seemed confused, but it was clear she didn't understand the seriousness of my words. "You're overreacting. I didn't mean anything by it. It's just, I feel like it's hard because I don't have the money to enjoy like everyone else." At that moment, I felt a bit of sympathy, but I still couldn't forgive her thoughtlessness. You may be struggling, but that doesn't give you the right to ask someone else to pay for your life. especially when that person has lost the most precious things in their life to get what they have. Everything went quiet again, but the atmosphere was still tense. My husband didn't say anything more. He just quietly looked at me, seemingly unsure of what to do. I knew he didn't want to escalate things, as he's always the peacemaker and doesn't want to hurt anyone. But in this situation, I felt I couldn't just let it go. My sister stayed silent for a moment before standing up. "I didn't think you'd act like this, seriously. I don't want to stay here anymore," she said, starting to gather her things, her eyes avoiding mine. I felt anger, but also a bit of regret. I had hoped she would understand, but maybe now wasn't the time for that. After she left, the tension in the house was still palpable. My husband looked at me and sighed. "I didn't want to create any more tension between you and your family," he said, his voice gentle, but full of concern. "I don't want to put you in the middle." I looked at him and replied, "I don't want you to choose between me and her. She crossed the line, and I couldn't let it go on. I don't want anyone in my family to take for granted what you've been through to have what you have." He nodded, but I could see the sadness in his eyes. He didn't want to make me uncomfortable, but he also didn't want to hurt anyone. However, I knew that deep down, he agreed with me. We had built a life that wasn't easy, and I couldn't let anyone disregard what we had gone through. Things changed after that day. I knew I wouldn't easily forgive my sister if she didn't realize what she had done wrong. But for me, family is important, and I will always protect my husband, even if it means standing up against the people closest to me. After my sister left, the atmosphere in the house remained heavy. Although my husband didn't say anything more, I could sense the worry in his eyes. He's always calm and easygoing, so seeing him looking uneasy made me feel a bit guilty. I knew he didn't want to create tension between me and my family, and honestly, I didn't want that either. But I couldn't just sit by and accept the disrespect toward him. That night, after putting the kids to bed, my husband and I sat in the living room. The silence between us felt thick, but I could sense the tension. He looked at me for a while before saying, "You did the right thing, but I don't want this to create distance between you and your family." I shook my head, not agreeing. I can't turn a blind eye when they disrespect what you've been through. No one in my family understands what that feels like. I'm just protecting you. He sighed, looking at me fondly. "I know you love your family, but you love me too. I don't want you to be caught in the middle of this." At that moment, I felt a conflict inside me. I love my family, but I also love and respect my husband. I couldn't let anyone, even family, hurt him. And when my sister acted the way she did, I couldn't just sit back and watch him endure that kind of disrespect. The next day, my sister called me. Her voice was tense. "What's going on? I don't understand why you had to make such a big deal out of it. I was just joking." I couldn't stay silent. "You don't understand. You can joke, but words like that can hurt someone. He lost both his parents to get what he has. I can't stand by and let you ask him for something unfair." She stayed quiet for a long time. Finally, she sighed. "I know I went too far, but don't make this worse. I just don't know what to do with the difficulties I'm facing." I listened and felt a bit of sympathy, but I couldn't change my stance. "I understand your struggles, but I can't accept you using him as a solution to your financial problems. I can't let you see him as a tool just because he has money." The conversation ended with a long silence. Even though my sister hadn't apologized yet, I could sense that she was starting to realize her mistake. But still, I couldn't forgive her unless she truly understood what she had done wrong. My husband and I sat down together and discussed the matter. He said, "I don't want to create division in the family, but I don't want you to feel like you have to protect me unnecessarily. If you feel this is something you need to do, I'll stand by you." I looked at him, feeling overwhelmed with emotion. He's not just my husband, but my best companion. No matter what happens, I know I will always stand by him and protect him, because what he has gone through deserves to be honored.